3 years. It's been 3 years since Undertale was first released, and seeing it come out on Nintendo Switch is kind of mind-boggling. Honestly, this game shook the internet in a multitude of ways, and for myself, it was one of the games that established me on YouTube as a theorist for tackling gaming mysteries. And Undertale was full of them. From Sans possibly being more than a skeleton, to Kara's true motives, to Undyne's mysterious eye. But out of all of these characters, there was one that stood out above the rest. Someone so obscure that even 3 years later, the internet is still talking about him. And that is Dr. W.D. Gaster. Now, way back in 2015, there were a multitude of theories floating around about this character and what they stood for. Were Sans and Papyrus the two halves of Gaster? How was Gaster lost in time and space? And what were the Gaster blasters that Sans used? Tons of unanswered questions still boggle our minds today. But the thing is, since this character was removed from existence, and almost all aspects of him were pulled from the game's timeline, we were left with only a name and questions. And for 3 years, this has been the case. But with Undertale coming to the Switch, things are a bit different. So let's talk about what's new in the game in regards to playing it on Switch. There aren't a ton of new things, but there are some notable ones. First and foremost, if you visit the dog shrine that appeared on the PS4/Vita, you'll notice that it's sort of all destroyed. For some reason, the entire area is leveled and seemingly abandoned. Upon opening the doors to the north though, you'll encounter a doll named Mad Mew Mew. And this actually triggers a really neat fight. During this fight, you'll have to utilize your Joy-Cons on the Switch to dodge attacks by Mad Mew Mew, who is actually the Mad Dummy that you fight in the waterfall. The Mad Dummy is hoping to fuse and become one with its new body, but your character comes along prior to that happening. Throughout the fight, you can continually knock off the head of the doll as you deal no damage. Eventually, after enough surviving, you'll have your opportunity to spare or slay the doll in true Undertale fashion. It's a pretty neat fight, but ultimately it leads to sort of a dead end of sorts. However, if we go back to the first room, I do find it interesting that there are blueprints on the floor here, and beyond that, they are graphically different than the blueprints we encounter in Sans' workshop. The blueprints found in the dog shrine reads as follows. It's some kind of blueprint, marked with red X's. It's hard to tell if it means rejection or treasure. If we jump back over to the PS4 version of the game though, the description just tells us that these blueprints are just paw prints and nothing more. But of course, anything tying back to Sans and Gaster is definitely top of mind. And honestly, this next thing we're going to talk about excites me for that very same reason. Now, one of the mysteries I never talked about in my original set of Undertale theories was the identity of Suzy, who the Clam Girl claims is her neighbor's daughter. Now, this stumped many players because the name came up as an important name, but nothing about this character existed in any capacity within the game. After a patch in the game, Clam Girl gained an additional piece of dialogue that read as follows. In life's grand scheme, she might be why you came here in the first place. Which is really odd. That means Frisk had to have known about Suzy prior to falling down into the underground. Or perhaps the Clam Girl has knowledge of future timelines in which Frisk meets Suzy. This is where things were left off until the Switch version came along, however. And now we have a bizarre twist in all of this. Because in the Switch version of the game, under special parameters, Clam Girl changes. She states the following. So, you never met my neighbor, but please don't despair, because the time you will meet her is fast approaching. And during that last phrase, is fast approaching, Clam Girl turns completely grayscale. As soon as you exit the message, Clam Girl fades away and the sound effect that plays when Gaster vanishes is heard. And this is super neat because the Gaster mystery has just been kickstarted all over again. According to her appearance and sound effects, it's very clear that Clam Girl is one of Gaster's followers, or someone who has been bestowed a gift by Gaster. And I use the term gift loosely because it can also be seen as a curse. Based off her messages, it's apparent she knows more than you know, but it also appears she knows what you'll eventually learn. I think this is why she fades away too. She's a victim of multiple timelines. She's foreshadowing now more than ever that Suzy is someone we're all going to meet relatively soon, and that we might be finally seeing another installment of Undertale or possibly DLC. If you recall the final part of my 2015 Gaster video, one of the thoughts I leave off on is about the Kickstarter that was used to generate money to make the game. Toby specifically stated, any money left over after the game's development will go towards extending the world of Undertale outside of the game, maybe through another game. Is Suzy, Gaster, and all the other mysteries the focus for what is coming next? The fact that the Clam Girl says this is fast approaching excites me greatly. So imagine this for a moment. Imagine the next game that's coming out for Undertale involves you having to travel back through the first game, through Undertale, to change the events of what's taking place in the second game. What if the smiling people in this picture are the future party members of this new game, or this future DLC? Like, this would get really cool really fast. What if this future game or DLC, if it exists, actually has us going around and fixing all the damaged timelines in the Undertale universe? That would be amazing. I mean, back when I made that video 3 years ago, I was ready at that point to see what the story beyond the game contained. I really hope the teaser is some sort of new addition, so I can dust off my old notes and tackle the mysteries of Undertale once again. Perhaps this time we'll find out who Gaster truly is. And with that, thanks for tuning in to this bizarre Undertale update. Why don't you click on one of these videos and give them a gander? Anyways, thanks for watching, guys and gals, and until my next video, cheers.